Hey guys, it's Brick Thunder, and today we're going to be taking a look at someone who has been part of the haunt for a few years now, is a staple of the lab. Everybody, meet Frank. Alright, so here he is, Frank. We've had him for a few years now, but he's usually crammed in a little storage unit or being used in the haunt. So I've not been able to do a video until now. We have the warehouse, so now we can take a detailed look at him and his history. We're also going to be opening him up today for two reasons. One, so you guys can just see all the internals because it's pretty amazing how this thing works. And two, because both of these are not working properly right now. So we got to fix those two issues. So this piece is definitely my most professional animatronic out of them all. This guy is made fully from silicone. The hands, the head, everything is silicone, just like the silicone mask material. The insides are all pneumatic. It's all air powered. And it's by a company called Life Formations. So we found this guy at a garage sale for only $300. He was not working, but we brought him to life after that, and we did a bit of research on him. And we actually were able to get the original sculpt photos for him. We also found what he was made for. So we believe there's only two of these in the world. He was made for a restaurant. It's Jekyll and Hyde. And we do have a video we found on YouTube of this thing actually originally in the restaurant. And you can see in the video that it was actually lifted by these. So he came down from the ceiling for the show and then was lifted back up into the ceiling. Later on, someone added all of this down here, which I believe the gears and stuff were actually from the wall behind it. But those were added later on to make him just a standalone prop. So getting this guy home was not easy. We had to use this crane right here, which I'm about to explain more because we are going to have to use that again in a second here. But also, he is my heaviest animatronic. I do own Colossus, but Colossus isn't even this heavy. You'll see because of all the internals why. Also, this is all metal around here, so it is heavy materials, but this guy, we think, weighs between 500 to 800 pounds. So very, very heavy, not easy to move. But now what we're going to do with the crane is open him up. So even this portion, just this with him, is heavy enough that we need to use the crane to open it, but there's these hooks right here that we can hook onto and just lift it right up, and then we'll see all the internals. And before we open up the board, these are the internals of Frank himself. So this is how he sits up. It's a pretty amazing mech. It's just a pneumatic cylinder attached to a chain right here, but there's all these gears that make him sit up, and it's a super strong mech. You can see some of the wires in there, some of the hoses. But yeah, really cool, and it's got this entire casing to do his form. These are all the solenoids that power Frank himself. All these different air hoses run to different areas on him. Sit up, both arms, the head turn, and the mouth. And then also his eyelids should blink, although he doesn't have them right now. That's something we would have to add because he did not have those. But lots of movement there. All right, now we are opening him up. All right, so this is what the inside looks like. So these two cylinders right there, those are the two that control those opening and closing mechanisms on top. You can see some of the, you can see the main regulator right there, but then you got regulators up there, all the air hoses going to each. And now looking over to the electronics, my dad here is going to explain how he got this thing back to life.
So the first thing we did was we took out the old electronics. So in this area, you can see some of the old electronics are still here, but it was basically a bunch of relays. And there was a big wire that came out of it, and there was some external controller that would turn on relays to flip the switches that would make all the different airlines fill up. We took out most of it and replaced it with a controller that I got from Amazon, and then we rewired the outputs of the controller to the solenoids that ran the cylinder. So where's the solenoid? Here's a solenoid, and there's some more solenoids up top. And then one other thing that's really cool is these lights on the side here. They charge up, and then they're like kind of like lightning. They like cackle and they light up, and it's really cool. And we had to rewire that too. And so those are kind of separate. And then once the controller was done, we had to make a new program for him. And so then that's where we started to use the computer. So back here is where all of the brains of Frank live. So this is his computer. It's called a Raspberry Pi. It's a really small computer. But what it does is it has an output right here that goes back to the controller that you saw before. And it also has a speaker out that goes to the speaker here. And inside the program, it has a variety of different steps that happen in time, and then then it's playing a sound at when the different events are happening on Frank. So it's kind of cool. So back here we have two buttons that control Frank. So the first is the lights. So when the actor wants to turn on the lights that go to the helmets, he just flips that switch. And then you press this button, and that starts the program that goes through all the different steps that make Frank do Frank's things.
All right, so now we are going to fix these two issues with the opening and closing mechs on top.
So when we first built it, we didn't actually label what the wires were for. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this voltage meter to try to figure out what does what, and then I'm going to write it down on this pad of paper so I don't have to do this again.
So we found the issue for the opening and closing of these clamps, and it was right here, just a severed wire. So we twisted that back to test it, and now it is working. And we think this one was a pressure issue because now it is working fine. All right, so now that both issues are fixed and we've looked inside, it's time to close them up and do the demo. All right, so there he was, Frank. This guy is definitely one of the coolest pieces out of anything we have for the Haunt. He was such an awesome find, especially for that price. Super glad we were actually able to get this thing. And seeing how rare it is, there's either one or two in the world. It's not a piece that you're going to see at a ton of different haunted houses. So it's definitely a unique piece to this haunt, and that's also really, really cool to have. But yeah, I'm glad we got him fully working again. He is now ready for next year. All right, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.